Welcome to Snoring Tales, the place where gentle words carry you into rest. My name is Jan, and tonight I'll be guiding you into the beginning of a part journey, a calm and unhurried voyage upon the ancient waters of the Aegean Sea. This is part one of Matty's story. Each part can be enjoyed on its own, but together they weave a slow and peaceful adventure designed to ease you into sleep. So, before we set sail, let's take a moment to breathe. Lie down comfortably, let your arms rest by your sides, and gently close your eyes. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Feel your chest rise, your stomach expand. And now slowly exhale through your mouth. Let the weight of the day fall away with your breath. Once more, inhale deeply, gathering calm and peace within you. Hold it softly, and exhale, releasing any tightness or worry. Allow your body to melt deeper into comfort. Imagine your bed supporting you as though it were the deck of a boat, rocking ever so gently beneath you. Now, let's begin our story. Matty had just stepped off an overnight bus from Istanbul. The long journey had left her tired, her shoulders heavy beneath the strap of her rucksack. The air of the southern coast wrapped around her instantly, thick with warmth, carrying the faint scent of salt from the sea. She found herself in a waterfront town that seemed alive with quiet charm. The streets were narrow, curving along the edge of the water. Boutique shops stood shoulder to shoulder, their windows gleaming with trinkets and fabrics. Cafes spilled out onto the sidewalks where people lingered with tall glasses of chilled drinks. Though Matty was weary, she couldn't help but pause. The world moved slowly here, a softness in the way the townsfolk walked, a tranquility in the laughter that carried across the square. She drew in a breath of the salty air and felt a flicker of anticipation. The harbor stretched before her, lined with boats of many shapes and sizes. Their tall wooden masts reached into a sky so blue it seemed endless. Some were small fishing boats, painted in faded shades of red and green. Others were graceful sailing vessels, polished and bright, their reflections shimmering across the rippling water. The sea itself was alive with color, turquoise shifting into emerald, silver waves scattering sunlight like jewels. Matty wheeled her suitcase slowly along the wide stone path that followed the curve of the bay. The air was hot, pressing down on her shoulders. But then, as if in kindness, a light breeze drifted in from the water. It lifted the strands of her hair from her forehead and cooled the back of her neck. She sighed, smiling softly to herself. And then she saw it. At the far end of the port rested a medium-sized wooden sailboat. Its deck was neat and welcoming, and a small painted sign at the stern bore the name of the company she had booked with. This was the vessel that would carry her into the Aegean. For the next 3.5 days, it would be her home. Matty's tired steps quickened as she approached the gangway. A tall, barefoot man stood waiting. His presence was calm, his voice warm as he introduced himself as the captain. With a smile, he asked her kindly to remove her shoes and placed them in a wooden box marked simply shoes. Obliging, Matty slipped them off. The moment her feet touched the deck, a gentle wave of relief washed over her. The wood beneath her was sun-warmed, smooth and solid. She felt instantly lighter, as though the boat itself had welcomed her aboard. The captain gestured for her to leave her bags nearby, assuring her she could settle into her cabin later. For now, he encouraged her to explore and take in her surroundings. Matty stepped forward, her bare feet padding softly against the deck. The sounds of the harbor, the cries of seagulls, the soft lap of water against the hull, the faint creak of ropes, all blended together into a quiet symphony of sea life. Though her body still carried the weariness of travel, something within her was beginning to shift. The tension in her shoulders was loosening. The weight in her chest felt lighter. She realized she had left behind the noise and rush of the city, trading it for the promise of still waters and open skies. As she moved toward the bow, Matty paused to gaze back across the town. From here, the streets seemed smaller, the bustle softer. Beyond them rose gentle hills dotted with whitewashed houses and green trees swaying in the sun. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the warm air wash over her. And in that stillness, she knew her journey had truly begun. Matty slowly moved toward the front of the deck. The soft warmth of the sun had seeped into the wooden boards beneath her bare feet, making each step feel grounding and calm. Above her, the mast stretched tall into the perfect blue sky, the ropes and sails resting quietly, waiting for the moment when the wind would lift them into motion. From where she stood, the sea looked endless, shimmering like liquid glass. She leaned against the railing, gazing down into the water. Suddenly, 2 large sea turtles surfaced, their smooth shells glistening in the sunlight. They circled one another slowly, their movements calm and graceful, like a gentle dance in tune with the rhythm of the ocean. Matty held her breath, afraid that even the sound of it might disturb the beauty of the moment. It felt like a secret gift, offered only to her. She closed her eyes for a second, silently giving thanks for this sight. After a while, the turtles drifted away, disappearing into the waves, leaving only ripples behind. Turning back, she decided to explore the cabins. A small set of steps led her below deck, into a cozy space filled with golden light. The wooden walls gave it a warm, welcoming feeling, and small windows allowed beams of sunshine to slip inside. There was a compact kitchen, a cushioned bench along one side, and doors leading to the cabins. Her room was tucked at the back. When she opened the door, she felt a wave of comfort. A simple bed, neatly made with fresh sheets, waited for her. Small cupboards lined the wall, and in one corner, a tiny bathroom had been cleverly designed to make the most of the space. It was modest, yet perfect in its simplicity, enough to hold her belongings, and enough to make her feel at home. She set her bag down and leaned toward the little porthole window. Beyond it stretched the wide, glimmering sea. Its colors shifted constantly, turquoise one moment, deep blue the next, then fading into green as the light danced across the surface. She took a deep breath, feeling as though the world had opened just for her. Then, a gentle humming sound reached her ears. The engine had started. The journey was truly beginning. Matty smiled and climbed back up to the deck. At the wheel stood the captain, steady and calm. Around the long wooden table, a few passengers had gathered, speaking softly to one another. Matty greeted them with a warm smile and was soon introduced. A cheerful couple, two siblings traveling from Turkey, and a kind woman from South Africa. Their faces glowed with excitement, all sharing the same quiet anticipation. Soon, the boat glided forward, rocking ever so gently with the rhythm of the sea. The steady hum of the engine, the soft breath of the wind, and the delicate splashing of waves against the hull blended together into a soothing melody. Matty walked to the cushioned bench near the bow and settled under the shade of the canvas. In front of her, the ocean spread endlessly. She closed her eyes, listening only to the water, the wind, and the warmth of the sun sinking deeper into her skin. The voyage had truly begun. The hours drifted gently, as though time itself had slowed to match the rhythm of the sea. Matty sat in silence, listening to the way the waves whispered against the sides of the boat. Every now and then, she opened her eyes, letting the vast expanse of blue sink into her soul. The horizon stretched endlessly, a soft line where the sky and the water touched, melting into one another as if they were part of the same eternal canvas. She leaned back against the cushion, and her mind began to wander. Each movement of the ocean carried with it a sense of timelessness, as though countless travelers had sailed these waters before her, listening to the same soothing melody of waves and wind. It felt humbling, almost sacred, to be a small part of something so infinite. Nearby, the Turkish siblings laughed quietly, pointing at a seabird that had been trailing the boat for several minutes. The bird, with its white wings spread wide, glided effortlessly above the water, catching the faintest breeze and letting it carry him onward. Its cry rang out once, high and clear, then faded back into the gentle hush of the sea. Matty smiled, not at the bird itself, but at the joy it brought the others. The boat seemed to weave a quiet connection between strangers, all of them, different lives and different stories, yet sharing this one peaceful journey together. As the morning turned toward midday, the sun rose higher, and the sea sparkled like scattered jewels. The captain gave a nod, and one of the crew members loosened a sail. Slowly, it unfurled, catching the warm breeze. The boat tilted ever so slightly, leaning into the wind, and with that subtle shift, they were no longer driven by the steady hum of the engine, but carried forward by the breath of the earth itself. The change was almost magical. Without the engine's quiet growl, the world grew softer, more alive. All that remained was the rush of air against canvas and the constant calming splash of water. It was as though the boat itself had sighed, settling into the ancient rhythm of sailing. Matty closed her eyes again and listened, Each sound seemed sharper now, clearer, as though the silence between them made space for their beauty. She heard the rattle of the ropes, the creak of the mast, the faint footsteps of someone crossing the deck above her. And beneath it all, the eternal voice of the sea, never hurried, never rushed, but patient, steady and strong. When she opened her eyes, she noticed the sea had shifted once more. The colors deepened as the sun touched the water at a new angle. Shades of sapphire and emerald mingled together, rolling in gentle waves that seemed to stretch on forever. Somewhere far ahead, the faint shape of land rose from the horizon, blurred by the shimmering air. Her heart quickened. She hadn't expected to see land so soon. It was only a shadow in the distance, yet it promised something mysterious, something new. She stood, resting her hand on the rail to steady herself as the boat swayed. The captain noticed her gaze and followed it. His weathered face softened and he gave a small nod. "An island," he said simply. His voice was low, calm, almost reverent, as though naming it too loudly might disturb its peace. The others had seen it now too. Quiet conversations spread across the deck, each person wondering what the island might hold. Matty didn't speak. She only kept her eyes fixed on the shape growing clearer with every passing moment. The island seemed wrapped in mystery, a place set apart from time, rising from the water like a dream slowly taking form. The breeze carried the faint scent of salt and something else, something green and alive. The closer they drew, the more details appeared. She saw the gentle slope of hills, the deep green of trees clinging to the land, and the pale curve of a beach where the water kissed the shore. For a while, no one said a word. The island held them all in a quiet spell. Matty felt her heart swell with wonder. She could almost imagine stepping onto that sand, feeling it warm beneath her feet, hearing the calls of unseen birds hidden among the trees. She pictured herself walking along paths unknown, discovering places untouched, as though the world had saved this secret just for her. The boat glided steadily onward, carried by wind and wave alike. The sails billowed gently above, and the island drew nearer, its colors growing sharper, more vivid. Every detail seemed to invite them closer: the shadows of cliffs, the shimmer of sunlight on leaves, the soft invitation of the shore. Time felt both endless and fleeting. Each moment lingered, stretched by the calm of the sea. Yet the distance between them and the island vanished quicker than she could believe. Matty placed her hand over her heart, steadying herself against the rush of emotion. It wasn't fear. It wasn't excitement in the loud, restless sense. It was something deeper, quieter, a feeling that she was exactly where she was meant to be. Around her, the other passengers leaned over the railing, pointing, whispering, their faces lit with anticipation. The boat seemed to carry not just their bodies, but their hopes, their curiosity, and their dreams toward this unknown shore. And as the island grew larger before her eyes, Matty knew that the journey she had begun was no longer just about the boat or the sea. or even the destination. It was about the spaces between, the stillness, the waiting, the gentle unfolding of wonder, piece by piece, wave by wave. The island was close now. The sails pulled tight with the wind, guiding them toward it. The voices of the passengers softened once more, and for a moment, there was nothing but the sound of the sea, the rustle of the canvas, and the beating of her own heart. Matty took a deep breath, her eyes never leaving the shore. Whatever waited there, she was ready. The voyage was carrying her into the heart of something new. As the boat drew closer, the island revealed itself in greater detail. What had once been only a hazy shadow now stood clear before them, its contours traced in sunlight and shade. The shoreline curved gently, embracing a quiet cove where the sea shimmered in 1,000 shades of blue and green. The waves there were softer, as if they too wished to rest upon the sand. The captain guided the boat carefully, his hands steady on the wheel, his eyes fixed on the hidden passage between two rocky outcrops. The sails shifted, catching the last of the breeze before the boat slipped into the stillness of the cove. Instantly, the sound of the open sea softened, replaced by the gentle lap of water against the hull. Everyone seemed to hold their breath, as though they had entered a sanctuary. Matty leaned over the side, staring down into the crystalline water. She could see everything: swaying ribbons of seaweed, fish darting in flashes of silver, and the slow, graceful movement of a stingray gliding just above the sandy floor. It felt like looking into another world, one that had always been there, waiting patiently beneath the surface. The boat drifted until the anchor was lowered, a muted splash echoing across the stillness. The crew moved quietly, as though unwilling to disturb the peace of the place. Soon, the boat rested securely, floating like a dream caught in the cradle of the island's embrace. The air was different here. It carried the fragrance of pine and wild herbs that grew along the slopes of the hills. Birdsong drifted faintly from the trees, weaving into the gentle hush of the waves. The sunlight glowed warmer, richer, as though it had chosen this place to linger a little longer. Matty closed her eyes and inhaled deeply. The scent of earth and sea mingled in her lungs, calming her in ways she could not explain. Her heart slowed to match the rhythm around her. This was no ordinary stop. It was a pause in time itself, an invitation to simply be. The captain spoke softly, his voice carrying the ease of long familiarity with such hidden places. "Here we rest," he said. "For a while, let the island hold you." One by one, the passengers moved about the deck. Some stretched their arms, savoring the warmth of the sun. Others leaned silently against the rail, gazing out at the shore. The siblings from Turkey laughed gently as they dangled their feet over the edge, toes brushing the cool water. Matty sat where she was, letting her senses absorb the moment. Every sound, every detail seemed magnified by the stillness. She listened to the rustle of leaves in the breeze, the ripple of water as a fish surfaced and vanished again, the distant call of a seabird wheeling overhead. Each sound was soft, yet together they created a symphony of peace. After a while, she dipped her hand into the sea. The water was cool, smooth, like silk against her skin. She trailed her fingers back and forth, watching the ripples spread outward in widening circles. It was a small thing, yet it made her feel connected to everything. The sea, the sky, the island itself. Her thoughts drifted, carried gently like the boat upon the tide. She thought of journeys yet to come, of paths not yet walked, of dreams she had not dared to voice. But instead of filling her with restlessness, the thoughts soothed her. They whispered not of urgency, but of patience, reminding her that all things unfold in their own time. The sun climbed higher, painting the water with shifting patterns of gold. Shadows moved slowly across the hills, stretching and curling like living things. The island seemed alive, breathing with them, cradling them in its quiet strength. Someone nearby sighed, a long, contented breath, and Matty found herself doing the same. Her shoulders relaxed, her body sinking deeper into calm. It was as if the island's stillness had reached inside her, untangling the knots she hadn't even realized she carried. She lay back against the cushions, her eyes half closed. From where she rested, she could see the tops of the trees swaying gently in the breeze. She watched a single white cloud drift slowly across the blue, unhurried, untroubled. The sight made her chest loosen, her thoughts slow, until she was simply present, here, now, at peace. Time seemed to lose its meaning. Minutes stretched like hours, hours folded into moments. The passengers spoke less and less, their voices fading into whispers, then into silence. The boat was filled not with noise, but with the quiet hum of life, with breaths in and out, with the faint heartbeat of the sea. At some point, Matty closed her eyes completely. She didn't sleep, not fully, but drifted in that soft space between wakefulness and dreaming. Images floated through her mind, the glimmer of fish below, the shimmer of sunlight on the water, the gentle shape of the island cradling them. They blended together, weaving a tapestry of serenity. When she opened her eyes again, the sun had shifted, casting new shades upon the hills. The water sparkled brighter, the cove glowing as if lit from within. She smiled softly, grateful for this pause, for this stillness that seemed carved out of eternity. The captain moved across the deck, his steps slow, deliberate. He did not hurry them, did not announce the time. He seemed to understand that this moment belonged not to schedules, but to the soul. And so they lingered, the boat and all who sailed upon it, resting in the island's embrace. For Matty, it felt like a gift she had not known she needed. The gift of being unhurried, unburdened, and fully alive in the present. She breathed in once more, deeply, letting the island's peace settle into her bones. The sea waited beyond, patient and endless. But for now, here in the quiet cove, there was nothing but calm, and Matty let herself surrender to it, body and spirit, as though the island itself had whispered to her heart, "Rest, dreamer. You are safe here." The sun had begun its slow descent, pouring a softer light across the cove. The golden beams touched the hills and spread across the water, which shimmered as though covered in molten glass. The boat rested gently at anchor, rocking in the rhythm of the tide, and everything seemed to move in harmony with the passage of time. Matty sat quietly, her chin resting against her hand, watching the island glow in the late afternoon. She felt as though she could stay here forever, in this hidden cradle of peace, where nothing was rushed and nothing demanded more than the present moment. The silence was not empty, but full, filled with the hum of life, the chirping of small birds, the whisper of pine branches, the occasional splash of a fish leaping in the water. The passengers around her had grown still. Some lay stretched upon the deck, their eyes closed, soaking in the last warmth of the sun. Others sat in thoughtful silence, gazing at the shoreline. It was as though each of them had found something within themselves here, something that words could not capture. Matty thought about the journey that had brought her here. Just a day ago, she had walked the cobbled streets of the coastal town, curious and a little restless. She had seen the sailboat waiting in the harbor, its white sails folded neatly, its wooden hull shining in the morning light. That had been the beginning, and now here she was, in a cove that felt like a secret, meant only for them. Her mind drifted further back, to the stories she had read of ancient mariners who had sailed these seas centuries ago. She imagined their small wooden vessels cutting through the waves, guided only by the stars above and their unshakable faith in the horizon. Perhaps they too had anchored in hidden coves such as this one, finding rest in the arms of the islands. Perhaps they had gazed at the same hills, the same trees, the same endless sky. The thought filled her with a quiet awe. She was connected to a line of travelers stretching back through time, all drawn by the same sea, the same promise of discovery and rest. It made her realize how vast the world truly was, and yet how small she felt within it, not in a frightening way, but in a way that was comforting, like being held by something larger than herself. As the sky shifted from gold to soft rose, the crew began preparing a simple meal. The smell of warm bread and herbs drifted across the deck, mingling with the salt air. The passengers shared food and laughter, their voices hushed but full of warmth. Matty tasted the bread, crisp on the outside and soft within, and the sweetness of olives, ripened under the Mediterranean sun. Each bite seemed richer here, as though the island had flavored it with its peace. After the meal, the passengers settled once more into quiet. The captain lit a small lantern near the mast, its glow gentle and steady. Soon, the sky deepened into shades of violet and indigo, and the first stars appeared, pricking the darkness with light. Matty lay back, her gaze fixed on the heavens. One by one, constellations revealed themselves, familiar shapes scattered across infinity. She traced them slowly in her mind. The steady form of Orion, the curve of the Great Bear, the glimmering thread of the Pleiades. They shone as they always had, as they always would, guiding sailors and dreamers alike across the vastness of the night. The boat rocked gently beneath her, each motion like a lullaby. The sound of water against the hull was steady and rhythmic, like a heartbeat. Matty closed her eyes and listened, letting the sound sink deep into her being. She thought of the island, its hills now dark against the glowing horizon, its trees rustling softly in the night breeze. It seemed to watch over them, offering its quiet presence without asking for anything in return. She whispered a silent thank you, not only to the island, but to the sea, the sky, and the journey itself. Around her, the passengers had begun to drift into sleep. Their breathing rose and fell in gentle unison, blending with the sounds of the water. The captain, still awake, stood at the helm, but even his movements were slow, unhurried, as though he too was caught in the spell of the night. Matty's eyelids grew heavy, her thoughts drifting like clouds across the sky. She pictured herself floating, weightless, cradled by the sea. The boat seemed less like a vessel now, and more like an extension of her own dreaming body. Every sway, every ripple lulled her deeper, carrying her toward rest. The stars above multiplied, spreading like diamonds spilled across velvet. The Milky Way arched overhead, a river of light flowing through eternity. Matty felt herself dissolve into it, as though her spirit was part of that endless expanse. She was no longer just one person on a boat. She was connected to the universe itself, vast and timeless. Her breathing slowed, matching the sea's rhythm. In, out, in, out. Each breath carried her closer to sleep, yet she welcomed it, knowing that dreams would continue the journey where wakefulness left off. The boat floated, steady and calm, anchored in the heart of the cove. The island kept its quiet watch. The sea whispered against the shore, and the stars burned silently above. Everything was at peace, and in that peace, Matty let go. She surrendered to the night, to the stillness, to the gentle arms of sleep. The world beyond could wait. For now, there was only this: the steady rocking of the boat, the lull of the waves, the glow of the stars. And slowly, softly, dream by dream, the night carried her away,